It was 2 days before the Passover and before the festival of the unleavened bread. Chief priests and the scribes were looking for a way to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. For they said,
"Not during the festival, for there may be a riot among the people."
While he was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came with a costly jar of alabaster-filled ointment of nard. She broke open the jar and poured the ointment on his head. But some were there who said to one another in anger,
"Why was the ointment wasted in this way? For this ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii and the money given to the poor."
And they scolded her. But Jesus said,
"Let her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has performed a good service for me. For you will always have the poor with you, and you can show kindness to them whenever you wish. But you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for its burial. Truly I tell you, when the good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her."
Then Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray him. When they had heard it, they were very pleased, and they offered to give him money. So Judas began to look for an opportunity to betray him. The disciples said to Jesus,
"Where do you want us to go and make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?"
So he sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them,
"Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him, and wherever he enters, say to the owner of the home, 'The teacher asks, where is my guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? He will show you a large room upstairs, furnished and ready. Make preparations first."
So the disciples set out and went to the city, and found everything as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, Jesus came with the 12, and when they had taken their seats and started eating, Jesus said,
"Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me, one who is here eating with me."
They began to be distressed, and they said to him, one after the other,
"Surely, not I."
And Jesus said to them,
"It is one of the 12, one who is dipping bread into the bowl with me. For the Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to whom by the Son of Man is betrayed."
While they were eating, he took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it in 2 and gave it to them. And he said,
"Take. This is my body."
Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them. And they all drank from it, and he said to them,
"This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for all to drink. Truly I tell you, I will never again drink the wine of the fruit until I drink it new again on that day in the kingdom of God."
When they had sung the hymn, they went to the Mount of Olives. And Jesus said to them,
"You will all become deserters, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee."
And Peter said to him,
Even though all become deserters, I will not.
And Jesus said to him,
Truly I tell you, this day, this very night, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times.
But Peter said vehemently,
Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you.
All of them said the same. They went to a place called Gethsemane. He took with him Peter, James, John, and began to be distressed and agitated. He said to them,
I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake.
and going a little further, he threw himself on the ground, praying that if it were possible, that the hour may pass. He said,
Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me. Yet, not what I want, but what you want.
Jesus came and found them sleeping. He said to Peter,
Simon, are you asleep? Could you not stay awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak.
and again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came to find them sleeping, for their eyes were weary, and they didn't know what to say to him. And he said to them,
Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough! The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up. Let us be going. See? My betrayer is at hand.
Immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him, there was a crowd with swords and clubs, from the chief priests to the scribes to the elders. The betrayer had given them a sign, saying,
The one I shall kiss is the man. Arrest him and take him away with the guards.
So when he came, he went up to him at once and said,
Rabbi,
and kissed him. Then they laid hands on him, arrested him. But one of those that stood near drew his sword and sliced the ear off of one of the priest's slaves.
They come out with swords, clubs, to arrest me as long as they may. Day after day, I was with you in the temple, teaching. You did not arrest me. Let the scriptures be.
All of them deserted him and fled. A young man was following him, wearing nothing but a linen cloth. They caught hold of him, but he left the linen cloth and escaped naked. They took Jesus to the high priests, and all the chief priests, the elders, and the scribes were all assembled. Peter had followed from a distance right into the courtyard of the high priests. He was sitting with the guards, warming himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were out looking for testimony against Jesus to put him to death. But they found none. Many gave false testimony against him, but their testimony did not agree. Some stood up to give false testimony, saying,
We heard it say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands. In 3 days I will build another, not made with hands.
But on this point, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up and asked Jesus,
Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?
but he was silent. He did not answer. Again, the high priest asked him,
Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?
and Jesus said,
I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power, and coming with the clouds of heaven.
The high priest tore at his clothes and said,
Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?
all of them condemned him to be deserving of death. Some began to spit on him, blindfold him, strike him, saying to him,
Prophesy! Prophesy!
The guards, they took him and beat him. Peter was in the courtyard below, and a servant girl for the high priest went by. She saw Peter warming himself and stared at him, and she said,
You also were with Jesus, the man from Nazareth.
but Peter denied it, saying,
I do not know or understand what you are talking about.
He walked into the forecourt. Then the cock crowed. The girl began saying to the bystanders,
This man is one of them.
but again he denied it. Soon the bystanders were saying to Peter,
Certainly you are one of them, for you are a Galilean.
and Peter began to curse. He had sworn an oath.
I do not know this man you are talking about.
And at that moment, the cock crowed for the second time. Peter then remembered what Jesus had told him. Before the cock crows twice, you will betray me 3 times. And he wept. As soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders, the scribes, and the whole council. They bound Jesus. They led him away, and they gave him to Pilate. And Pilate asked,
Are you the king of the Jews?
and Jesus answered.
You say so.
Then the chief priests accused him of many things, and Pilate asked again.
Have you no answer? You see the many charges they bring against you?
But Jesus made no further reply. Pilate was amazed. Now at the festival, he used to release a prisoner for them, anyone they wanted. Now a man called Barabbas, who was in prison with the rebels who had committed murder during the insurrection. So the crowd came and began to ask Pilate to do for them according to the custom. And then he answered them.
Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?
For he realized that it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed him over. But the chief priests stirred up the entire crowd to have them release Barabbas instead.
Crucify him! Crucify him!
Pilate asked him.
Why? What evil has he done?
They shouted all the more.
Crucify him! Crucify him!
So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas for them. And after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the palace, that is, the governor's headquarters, and they called together the whole cohort. They clothed him in a purple cloak, and after twisting thorns into a crown, they placed it upon his head, and they began saluting him.
Hail, King of the Jews!
They struck him with a reed. They spat upon him. They knelt down in homage to him. After mocking him, they stripped off his purple cloak, put his own clothes back on him, and then, only then did they lead him away to be crucified. They compelled a passerby who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. It was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. They then brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull. And they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he would not take it. And they crucified him. And they divided his clothes amongst them, casting lots to decide what each should take. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified 2 bandits, one on his left and one on his right. And those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying,
You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross.
In the same way, the chief priests were mocking him along with the scribes amongst themselves and saying,
He saved others. He cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe.
Those who were crucified with him also taunted him. When it was noon, a darkness came over the land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out in a loud voice,
Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me?
When some of the bystanders heard it, they said,
Listen, he is calling for Elijah.
And someone ran and filled a sponge with sour wine and put it on a stick and gave it to him to drink, saying,
Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down.
Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way, he said,
Truly, this man is the Son of God.